Good morning, a very warm welcome to this morning's session. We are very much looking forward to hearing from our speaker, Dr. Tshifhiwa Kodisang. And this morning she'll be sharing with us your job search, self-confidence, and dealing with frustration and fatigue. My name is Lisa Dazel. I'm from the Unisa Directorate for Counselling and Career Development. And we will start this morning with the introduction from our other colleague who has joined us, Mrs. Mandu Makanya. So she'll be introducing our speaker to us. Then Dr. Kodisang will share with you about self-confidence and dealing with frustration and fatigue during job search. While you are listening to the presentation, please feel free to post any questions or comments you have in the Teams Q&A. Dr. Kodisang will then share answers to those questions after she's done her presentation. And then we will just end off the session with a few announcements and thank you from us. So with that, I'm handing over to Mrs. Makanya. If you could please just introduce our speaker to us.
Mrs. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me pleasure and an honor to introduce our speaker today. She is a senior student counselor at Unisa and a clinical psychologist. In her current role, she supports students through therapy and career counseling. She completed her BA degree, honors degree in psychology and criminology, a master's degree in clinical psychology with a cum laude, and she also has a PhD in psychology, all obtained from the University of South Africa. She is a proud alumni of Unisa. In a current role as a senior student counselor, she supports students through therapy and counseling. She is registered with the Health Professions Council of South Africa and an associate member of the South African Clinical Neuropsychological Association. She is passionate about her commitment to supporting individuals to develop and grow. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Kodisang on our virtual stage. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Mrs. Makanya, and a very warm welcome, Dr. Kodisang.
Morning, colleagues. Morning to our Unisa students. I am grateful to be part of this presentation today, looking at your job search, self-confidence, and dealing with frustration and fatigue. Yesterday, I was running, or let me say running and walking in the area of Unisa. Those who know Unisa main campus, you would understand that the area is very steep. And it was around 1 o'clock. It was a bit hot as well and windy. As I reached halfway, I realized, shoo, I'm very tired. And I looked back and I was like, you have not done much and you still have a long way when I look at the front where I needed to go. And I had a target. If you stay around Pretoria, I was coming from Sunnyside campus, running up to the main campus, and my target was to turn down there at the campus from Groenkloof, University of Pretoria. And as I was looking at where I still need to go and how tired I feel, I was like, you will not make it. And then I started reflecting to say, why are you feeling fatigued? Why are you feeling like you won't make it? Then I realized it's not only about this running that I started now, it's also that I've been busy during the day. I have been busy that morning with that task. And this morning, as I reflected on my experience today, I just felt, oh, it really also talks about our journey in our job search. Why sometimes we don't feel confident in ourselves, or we feel frustrated and we feel fatigued. Because remember, this journey did not start now. It started, if you think about it, when you started with your sub A at school, you were on the journey to look for this job. When we started at university, you are looking forward to the day you start working. And that's why now when you are in this process, at times you might feel like tired and frustrated. And we don't embrace that. We don't normally think about it. Like I had the idea that I'm just going to leave Sunnyside and the next stop is Groenkloof and coming back. But I never thought that, sure, during the steep hill, I could feel very frustrated. I could feel very tired. I could also feel not fit enough. And I was thinking, no, maybe you shouldn't have aimed to go to Groenkloof because I was not confident about my fitness anymore as I started feeling tired. So that's something you need to think about practically so. As we are talking about this process, it captured for me the journey we go through as we are in the journey of job search. Sometimes we look at it as this particular journey only to say, yeah, I graduated last year or I'm on my second year. Why am I not getting there, or why am I feeling frustrated? But you must remember the journey started a long time ago, and sometimes some of the things that has happened on your way as you are studying, as you are preparing to get to university, also have impacted on your self-confidence, also play a role why you are frustrated and why you feel fatigued. But we are here today to talk about that. So you can hear from the story that I've just narrated, what I've shared with you with what has happened with me yesterday, which also applies to the job search process. The job searching process involves a roller coaster of emotions, uncertainties, doubts, and moments of frustration. But you must remember, it starts with the moments, emotions of looking forward, of being very grateful, of being very confident. I woke up early in the morning having this idea, I'm gonna walk, you're gonna go to Groenkloof. By then, I had not even contemplated the uncertainty as I steep the uncertainty as I start feeling exhausted and the doubts. You may face challenges that can sometimes erode your sense of self-belief and drain your energy. And the challenges sometimes it's even my perception that I have timed myself. I kept on looking at my watch, which was the main source of frustration because I had timed myself to say I must take an hour from Sunnyside to Groenkloof, and only to realize I'm not even reaching half of Unisa main campus and I'm already 40 minutes gone. I'm still far away. So that was a challenge, and part of this challenge, I created it myself because I had a perception and I had also put timelines. We also put timelines in our lives that also create challenges and a sense of self-belief to say, I can't believe I'm here. A lot of times when I engage with students, with people in general, and they are very demotivated about where they are in their career journey, they would say to me this statement that I am not where I thought I should be. I'm not where I had expected myself to be at this age. Another aspect is fear of rejection, waiting for responses, and the pressures related to finding a job that can affect even the most confident individuals. Looking for a job have got a number of things that are triggered in us. It's about even being accepted. And sometimes we don't understand how much part of this process has to do with the rejection. And most of us, we struggle with rejection. So maintaining self-confidence and resilience through your job search journey is not only crucial for your success, but also for your overall well-being. I'd already mentioned earlier on that it involves a roller coaster of emotions. It's not just an administrative process where you fill the form, you get called, you go for an interview. It also involves your being, your emotional being, and your mental being. It also involves your whole perception of how you look at yourself and the person you are as you go through this journey. So being able to navigate the highs and lows of job searching affects our careers and our mental and emotional states. Learning how to grow and sustain self-confidence as well as to manage frustration and fatigue will enable you to be ready for opportunities and adapt to challenges. So in my challenge yesterday, I had to immediately adapt to say, what if I can walk? And maybe I must not even walk to reach for Kroonkloof. Let me walk and see how far I can go. Let me forget about the timing that I had put for myself. Let me first enjoy the walk and see what the walk provides. The same thing that needs to happen in your journey of job search. You also need to navigate some of these challenges and reframe some of the perceptions of how things should be done in order to remain intact mentally and emotionally, and also your self-confidence. Let's now talk about the job search journey, navigating uncertainties and doubts. And I must maybe mention here something very important, why we need to navigate uncertainties and doubts and to be aware of this. Most of us, even myself, when somebody asks me, how are you today? When I say, well, one of the things I'm saying is that I know what needs to happen today. I feel very certain about my life for today or even tomorrow. So when I woke up this morning, I was quite comfortable. I could plan my life. I had the certainty that at 11 o'clock, I need to show up for this presentation. So when, as human beings, we don't feel certain about what needs to happen in our life, emotionally we become quite disturbed because we then feel like we can't plan our lives, and it's as if I don't also have control over my life. And those are aspects that also get triggered in your job search process. Most people say, because I don't have a job, I can't even plan my life. But we need to embrace today that the nature of job searching is unpredictable. So how do we plan our life and live with such a chaos to have structure and certainty within that chaos? Some common uncertainties and doubts that we may face arise during the job search, including fear of rejection and imposter syndrome. And this relates to fear of not being good enough and fear of failing as well. Let's first talk about fear of rejection. You must remember, by nature, all of us, we want to be loved and to be accepted. Even those people who says, I don't care about other people. I don't care what people think about me. It's not true. When you start getting the feedback that you are not worthy and you are not good enough, you feel rejected and even abandoned. And the whole job process invoke that in us, silently just getting that letter. And it's worse that in a letter we reject to inform you that you were not successful. It resonates with the rejection that most of us incubate, but we camouflage. And why this is important and why this must be understood and be dealt with, because fear of rejection may have the following impact. You may hesitate to apply for certain job and then also meet out on opportunities. Remember that by nature, we are very defensive to our emotions. So when you start feeling that you're going to be rejected, you will act in a way that you don't get rejected more. With the rejection, I always hear this story, or I know of this story. It's unfortunate. It's not that I'm being spiritually or culturally with the religion being discriminating. I must apologize to people who do not have this particular faith, because I hear there is a story in the Bible where this woman lost her husband and her kids. And I could imagine she felt very rejected because these people left her, these people abandoned her. And the story continues and say that now she thought of even leaving where she was living to go to another place. Then her daughter-in-laws wanted to go with her, but she said to them, no, don't go with me. She refused to go with them. She didn't want their love because she has been rejected. But this story, as it continues, we hear one of these daughter-in-laws goes with her. And the story as it goes, they developed a very good relationship. They had a bond. This story is very fascinating for me because this old lady would have missed an opportunity to be loved and to be accepted by this young lady because she had been rejected before by the loss when her husband and her kids died. It felt like a rejection to her. She made a decision. Nobody must love me. Those other people have left me. And she would have missed any opportunity to experience herself being loved by somebody. The same applies in the process of the job process. Because that company rejected me, it means I will not be good enough for another company. I remember Lisa and I used to sit in a panel of selection, and we will emphasize that the fact that we would not select you does not say anything about your future. It does not also say about other opportunities outside of us. We are not labeling or judging you. That was very important for us so that we clarify this to the applicants so that they don't think if Unisa have rejected me, it means nobody else will accept me. It's important that you understand that rejection makes you to start doubting yourself. You will start doubting your qualification and your skills, which affects how you come across during interviews. Furthermore, you will not only doubt even your qualification, you will even start doubting your decision making. Did I choose the right career? Did I choose the right qualification for me? Which means as you present yourself, you are engulfed or you have internalized a sense of self-doubt that will come out during the interviews. You could even start settling for less because you don't even appreciate what you are worthy for or what you are worth in the job market. You even fear seeking feedback. You can't even go out and ask people, how come I was not selected? Because you are still just thinking you will be hearing horrific stories about how bad you are. You must remember, fear of rejection could have an emotional toll, the feeling of stress and the feelings of helplessness. It could also mean that it makes you feel unwanted. Nobody wants you. Nobody wants to work with you. That's how deep rejection goes. We just spoke about rejection now, but another important aspect is the imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome is when you feel inadequate despite evidence that you are not, and you fear being exposed as a fraud. Yesterday, in my story, I was halfway with my exercise, but something made me to start thinking, maybe I am not as fit as I had thought I am. Therefore, I might not manage to even reach Groenkloof that I initially thought I would go. I started feeling very inadequate. I started feeling very unfit. I even thought maybe I should not have thought of climbing all the steps. I should have walked all the flat road. But there was evidence because I had already managed to walk a distance, even in a steep area. So imposter syndrome can make you to hold back from applying for position. As I was standing there and there, I was even thinking of going back to Sunnyside. I was not thinking of walking because I started thinking I can't even reach Groenkloof. That could also happen to you where you start feeling like I must not even apply for this position because I'm not good enough, because I'm not adequate, because I'm not qualified enough, because I have nothing to offer. You feel reluctant to highlight your achievements. The other thing is that you overwork because everything has to be perfect, leading to burnout. You also dismiss positive feedback. I always talk to people about this particular type of people. If I say, sure, Miss Makanya, the dress you are wearing, it looks so beautiful. She will negate that and says, no, that's the dress that my aunt gave me. It's very old. Or, you know, this dress, I got it from this cheap place. And, you know, it's nothing really. But she will just be struggling to embrace that when I look at her dress looks beautiful. You even hesitate reaching out to others since they are more skilled or have more knowledge than you. You always look at yourself in a negative way and you don't even think people around you can support you or they are capable of providing you with feedback. And other people are not even going through your struggles. They don't understand what you are going through because they are different in a positive way. You are just bad. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and as I was saying, I could imagine you feel this, you feel this. She says, sure, I never thought any person can even articulate how I'm feeling without even me explaining this, because I thought it's unique to me. It's only my own struggle. And she got very shocked when I said, no, I can relate to that. I have also gone through the same feelings when I am at your position. But she couldn't imagine that I could have gone through that. Why it's important that we have self-confidence in the job searching process? What is the role of self-confidence? For me, if you think about this job search skills as your body, your self-confidence is your spinal cord, where you are sitting, whether you are lying or you are squatting, the spinal cord holds everything together. It holds your body. even for me to sit up straight and to be able to converse with you, and everything is communicated and it's held by the spinal cord and the spinal fluid. So your self-confidence affects your networking and building connections. As I just told you, if my spinal cord is cut or something happens, my mouth might not be able to communicate with my brain. My eyes might not be able to communicate even with my laptop. So I would not be able to connect with myself, but I would also not be able to connect with you. So your self-confidence is your spinal cord. It holds things together within you and the outside environment. So we need your self-confidence. Self-confidence affects crafting a compelling CV and a cover letter. It is my spinal cord that makes me feel like I'm alive, I'm a human being, and I'm talking. It validates me. It makes me to be even aware of where I am and the processes I'm involved in. So your self-confidence helps you to even understand I'm in the process of selling myself and I need to sell myself to the next person so that they understand who am I and what will they get in me and the contributions I will be making from the letter and the CV. Also, it is your self-confidence that helps you in performing well in interviews. For me to be able to perform now, whether I'm performing well or not, which I would want to believe I'm performing well, it is due to my spinal cord being able to help me to coordinate everything so that I can articulate this presentation. And that's the role of your self-confidence. Let's now talk about the tips for boosting your self-confidence. I always tell people every time I talk about self-confidence being raised in rural villages, I always think about the self-confidence as like a process of building a Randavel house that is made of mud. The process of building that Randavel. Those of you who have gone through those experiences or who know certain people who have gone through those experiences, you will know if a person is saying they're building a Randavel made of mud or brick mud, they would need to reflect on what do they have for now. So, and the most important part of that process is when you have already finished making your bricks and you have bent them. So you need to reflect on your past achievement, because having those bricks already being done and you were not unfortunate that you start the process of making your bricks and it rains, because if it rains and your bricks are not covered or they are not dry, they melt. Then you have nothing to show off. But when you have got your bricks, you can tell to the next person, I have got my bricks and now I'm starting with the process of building my house. I am ready. I have got something to help me with the process. So reflect on your past achievement. A lot of us, when we have got bricks, we don't see that this is part of building our house. We always look at something else that at that moment we will feel we don't have. What do you have? Maybe you have your qualification. Maybe you have your volunteer activities. Do you embrace that? The other day I was talking to somebody and we were talking about the experience, and this person says, no, the experience I have is not relevant. I said, no, any experience is relevant because it talks about you as a unique person and the things you have learned in that particular situation. Yes, maybe you want to be a lawyer. but your experience is being a security guard. That experience talks about the achievement, even though it's just as a security guard. It could say a lot about you and the skills you have and the type of a person you are. Maybe the experience you have and what you have achieved was just working as a domestic helper. How do you put that? And how do you look at that as something to be grateful for in the process of your job search and holding into something you have and you know you have done it and you have accomplished it? You also need to practice positive self-talk. Yesterday, as I was walking, I had to look at what I've already done and said, no, but you have done enough. Maybe you might not have managed the time, but can you just take it one step at a time and move further? Also, feel how you are breathing. You are not out of breath. Therefore, you are not unhealthy. You are not unfit as your brain is starting to think. So there needs to be something in that experience, in where you are, where you put out something positive with what you have been doing, with what you have done so far. Look at the journey and think about where you come from, where you are now, and think about you might not have the job now, but there are things that you already have. And those things, if you hold into them, they also give you a sense of comfort and assurance that you can get where you need to go. Also embrace continuous learning and skill improvement. This could be academic learning. This could be non-academic learning. There need to be an opportunity that you constantly create, even if it means it's just doing an online course on Excel or computer skills. But even learning about yourself and how you relate to the environment. When I thought about my experience yesterday, this morning, I also thought one day I was running and I was struggling. And that day, I just heard somebody saying at my back, "You are doing well, my sister, go on, continue to run." And this person gave me a sense of courage. But yesterday, I reflected, I said, oh, you have learned to give yourself courage to say you are doing well, go on, even though there was nobody there. It was a learning experience for me to say, oh, then it means you are able to continue to run or to walk, even though there is nobody to motivate you, even though there is nobody to see you. Those are things sometimes we need to learn and embrace about our growth and our improvement as human beings, because it's important to hold us in the journey like this. Since we started, we have been talking about job search, frustration, and fatigue. Why does job searching lead to frustration and fatigue? Remember, in the beginning, I also mentioned one of the reasons that we get the frustration and the fatigue is the time frames, it's the perceptions of how this process must unfold, but also this journey, how we look at it, where it started. Remember the reason you went to school from sub A? It's because you wanted this job. Some of us, we were very clear where we want to go. Now we are tired. It feels like a long journey. In Afrikaans, there is a saying, ons kom ver. We come very far. You come very far in this journey, and it could be understanding if you are starting to feel frustrated because you are saying for how long. But remember, it's different blocks of the puzzle. Yes, it was important that you start sub-A. Yes, it was important that you are in a university, but it's the different blocks of the puzzle. So also realize that you are now dealing with this puzzle on its own. Don't look at where it has started. We acknowledge where it started, but this is another block. And this block has got its own frustration due to the endless application submissions. You're constantly busy looking for position, tailoring your CV and cover letter, filling out online forms, waiting for feedback, preparing for interviews. Some people say it's like donkey work. You are repeating, doing more of the same, sometimes feeling like you are not getting results. But we also need to think about what are the results. The results is not only employment at the end. Sometimes we also need to embrace, oh, I was shortlisted. Oh, I went for the interview. Oh, they even took me to criminal screening. It means those are part of the steps we must also celebrate. Even the process that you can find a position you can apply for, we need to acknowledge that as a huge step. Otherwise, it can lead to fatigue because you are just feeling you are giving and giving with no feedback. Sometimes the rejection or lack of responses or feedback, it can be discouraging to put in effort and to receive rejections or no feedback. We take it personal. You take it, this is about me being rejected. Sometimes we won't even know that the company is in financial trouble. They don't tell us that. Sometimes you won't know that the company now cannot afford to pay you. So it feels like rejection. There is a huge sense of silence in the process of application. There is also a huge sense of coldness, especially in the 21st century where you either get an email. It's not a human interaction in most of the places. So that leaves you with a lot of emotions as well. The uncertainty and waiting, that makes you to feel very restless and anxious. We don't like waiting. We don't, by nature, waiting creates discomfort, create a sense of uncertainty where you are not even sure, will it happen or will it not happen? So you can see the job processes provoke certain emotions, makes us vulnerable as human beings with aspects of human nature that we struggle to embrace. And with this, I'm trying to show you that at times it could feel very lonely. It could feel like there is something wrong with you. It's not that there is something wrong with you. The process by itself is quite complex and it has got a lot of emotions that can be very uncomfortable and unbearable at times, but they're also normal part of the journey. The issue is how we embrace them and we acknowledge them so that they don't paralyze us. The other thing is lack of control. You have limited control over other factors such as company decision and external circumstances that affect your job search. You would have heard earlier on that I mentioned that by nature, even people who could raise their hands and says, I'm not a control freak. We can't function mentally if you don't have a sense of being in control. That's how we are wired as human beings psychologically. You need to have a sense of control. I said earlier on that the process is very isolating, it's very lonely. You feel isolated and you feel like there is no one who understands to talk to. Because partly you also feel like nobody has gone through what I'm going through. I was thinking yesterday when I was still looking for a job, there was an agent, a very popular agent offices in Hatfield. And I remember walking from Pretoria Central to that place. not even knowing the area. But I couldn't even tell people. You feel so ashamed. You feel so embarrassed. You also don't want people to feel sorry for you. So I walked around all by myself, even being lost. I couldn't ask for direction because I was thinking people will know I'm looking for a job. But at the same time, there is a lot of pressure and expectations from yourself and others. I always get concerned that even as family members, as parents, as next of kin, we always say to people, now that you have your degree, you must just find your job. We even say, we are now done with our part of supporting you as you were studying. You are on your own. You must just find your job. We don't realize that you need us more during this time. It's like the job that I needed to do was to pay for your studies, to motivate you that you pass so that I don't need to pay anymore. Now it's entirely up to you. And if you don't get a job, I will say to you, why are you not finding a job? Why are you are lazy? We even judge you. We are not that understanding. So there is a lot of pressure internally as well, because a lot of us, we have written down at 27, I must have my own job, my own flat, my own house, my own car, and that impact on us as well. So we need to reframe that. I told you yesterday, I told myself I must run from Sunnyside to Groenkloof within an hour. And I can think now, part of the feeling of frustration and fatigue was coming from the pressure, because I was now climbing that very steep hill, running instead of just walking. And that made me to feel very tired. When I slowed down and I started just walking, but walking faster, I still managed more. So think about, with this pressure and expectation, are you running? Can you still walk? Can you still maybe walk faster? Can you still walk and run so that you contain yourself? And preserve yourself as well. Okay? Dealing with frustration and fatigue. Let's talk about strategies for maintaining frustration and fatigue. I think for me, the one thing that we must remember, this is not a mechanical process. It's a very human process. This is not an administrative process. It's a very emotional human process. So if we have that as part of our strategy, it will help us to also deal with the rest of the things, or to embrace all the things that we're gonna put through now. If you look at, I'm a human being looking for a job. I'm a person who has got feelings even related to this job process. It will help you to manage as you go through this journey. The one part is establishing a structured routine. When do you do what and how? But in this structured routine, you also need to focus on what you can control, not what you cannot control. By nature, human beings, we are tempted, we are attracted to things we cannot control, and we want to fix them. That does not work very well. It's very destructive. Rather focus on things you can control. Things you can control is like sending an application, making sure I talk to people, making sure I update my LinkedIn profile. The second thing is to set goals and break down the job search into manageable tasks. You need to have certain goals. By end of this week, this is what I want to have done. By end of today, I would want to have done this. Self-care is very important. Self-care means acknowledging also how am I feeling? Where am I in this process? Talking to other people. It's okay sometimes to take breaks. You can't just be on News 24 all the time waiting to see will they post something. You can tell yourself, I will go on News 24 once a week or twice a week. It's important to seek support from friends, family, or career counselor. Just talking to other people about where you are, what you are doing, and also being open on what you can do differently. Having a soundboard, having a space where you can do a helicopter view of your own processes, and so that you can see maybe there is something I can do differently. We also need to build resilience, because that's important for building our mental strength for the job search process. What are we talking about when we are talking about resilience? We are talking about the ability to adapt, recover, and maintain a positive mindset. Yesterday, I had to adapt to my walking, recover, and still also have a mindset so that I could continue despite the setback of time, the challenges and uncertainties through the journey, and that will be throughout the job search process journey. We need to have resilience. How do you foster resilience? You need to cultivate a growth mindset. You need to realize that you are growing every day. Again, you can see to be resilient, you need to focus on what you can control. You also need to practice mindfulness and stress reduction techniques. Part of mindfulness focuses on just being in the present moment, acknowledging where you are at the present moment, your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior, not contemplating anything about the future, because you also don't have control over that. What are some of the things we can do to cultivate this growth mindset? Think about challenges as chances to learn and improve. Think about challenges as opportunities. Think about challenges as an opportunity to discover yourself and experience yourself differently. It's also important to reflect on challenges and setbacks to understand what can be improved and how this contributed to your growth. Look for chances to expand your knowledge and skills. It's important to also set achievable goals and track your progress. It's also important to celebrate all the progress you make. Remind yourself of your progress and capabilities. Also, seek feedback from mentors, peers, and experiences. When you experience something, take some time to say, what does it mean? What am I getting out of this situation? Consider your environment and relationships and seek places and people supporting growth. Let's talk about focus on what you can control. It's important to make a list of the things you can control and the things you cannot control during your job search. Concentrating on what you can control will free up time and energy to focus on the following: building a strong CV, improving your interview skills, expanding your network, enhancing your knowledge and skills. Focusing on what you can control will help you maintain a healthier and resilient approach to your job search. When you think about any activity in your life and you think about what you can control and what you cannot control, it actually grounds you. It actually validates you that, oh, there are actually things I can do for myself. But when you constantly think about things you cannot control, you feel very overwhelmed. Practice mindfulness and stress reduction techniques. Mindfulness and stress reduction techniques can be an invaluable tool for maintaining your well-being during the job search process. Here are some options you could consider. Deep breathing, taking time where you are intentional in your breathing, where you are aware of how you are breathing and you can feel your breathing. Meditation, yoga or stretching, being active. You could hear from me yesterday, I was walking and jogging, and that is also part of the stress reduction, and also dance. Journaling, write down your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. That will help you to validate where you are. As I said earlier on, remember this is not an administrative process. It's an emotional process, it's a human process. Also give gratitude. Have gratitude practice, things you learn, things you appreciate, things that has happened in that particular day. Write down things you are grateful for each day. The other thing is self-compassion. Treat yourself with kindness and understanding. A lot of us, especially as young people, we don't treat ourselves with kindness because we always look at ourselves according to the scripts we wrote about ourselves. We look at ourselves only as a project. And if the project is not good, doing well, I cannot appreciate myself. That statement is very loaded, where most of us, we say, I'm not where I thought I would have been. I'm not where I have expected to have been. You are not going to be able to have compassion about yourself if you look at yourself just as a project and the activities that the project should have managed by then. Okay. Thank you. Time for questions. I'm grateful I just managed the allocated time so that we've got discussions for question and answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kodisang. There are 2 questions so far, which I will read out to you now. But while we are doing those questions, those of you who are attending, if you've got any further questions or even just a comment that you wish to share, please go ahead and do that in the Q&A. So let me just go to the questions. Our first question or comment from Sizwe is, I've been unemployed for over a year now, and I find it difficult to view myself as a worthy member of society. I keep myself busy with work at home and doing some online courses, but I feel very demotivated. Is this normal, and how can I change it?
Thank you, Sizwe. Thank you for sharing. You ask a question, is this normal? I sometimes shy away from saying normal and abnormal because the reason we struggle so much in the society, things are normally blocked in 2 blocks, good or bad, normal, not normal. But I would, however, say it would seem to me you are starting to experience feelings that are related to the job search processes when people are not getting the feedback that they would have expected. There are key things that you mentioned. It has been almost a year. that I've been unemployed. So even that is very significant, that possibly you have been expecting after 6 months I would be somewhere. And when you don't get that, there is this reality of feeling like I've failed, I'm failing, I'm disappointed, I'm not fitting in. That's why even your question is it normal? The next thing, you mentioned that you are doing some other things, but you don't feel worthy as a member of society. That leads me to something that we would even need to talk about outside of this platform. I constantly talk to people about conditions that we set for ourselves to look at ourselves as worthy of being a member of society. The criteria that we look at, or our perception of the criteria that are imposed on us. Notwithstanding the fact that each one of us want to be independent, it could be nice to have a job and doing things maybe financially for myself, but lo and behold, we need to interrogate what are the conditions of being worthy that I have set for myself, or the perceptions I have that people, for me to look at me, for me to fit in, to be worthy, what are those criteria? And it's very sad that being human, being available, being visible, being able to participate in other things, sometimes it's disregarded. If it's not aligned to the standard, you must be working, you must have particular amount of money, and. Therefore, you would also realize if you get a job and you are earning 20,000, you might also be quite miserable because another graduate at a particular company is earning more. So it's an opportunity to start even re-looking at what are the conditions for me to be worthy? What needs to be happening around me or within me to still feel worthy, despite the difficulties that I'm going through, that the difficulties that I'm going through, or the perceptions that I had thought how my life would be, or the journey I've crafted, if it's different, then it means I'm not worthy.
Thank you, Dr. Kodisang. Then we've got Pauline. She says that I find in my career I often regret certain decisions that I've made, and I know it's not helpful. How do I manage this?
Pauline, I would even invite us that we need to talk about this because sometimes we need to reframe certain experiences to be able, or decisions we have made, to be able to look at opportunities or use what we have to where we need to go. Sitting in front of you, I've got an honors in criminology. When I finished my degree, I then thought about this clinical psychology, and I've heard so many things about selection and all that, and I was like, this will not work. Rather do an honors in criminology and take a detour. Then, when I was doing that honors in criminology, get an exposure to counseling environment as a volunteer and then contract worker. And then I realized, but this is who you want to be. So I had to take both the experience of criminology, which I could have thought you made a blunder, to even reframe it to say, oh, in your journey now of becoming a psychologist, you can be a different psychologist because you have got this background of crime and victims of crime, which you can actually integrate with the psychologist you become. With that, I want to tell you, if we can be able to move from the blame and the guilt and the self-condemnation and look at that experience or those decisions to say, but in some way, what did this, what I call wrong decision, has provided for me? What can I take from this, maybe to then help myself to be who I want to be, or even understanding who I wanted to be. But yes, it's very unhelpful when you are still guilt-tripping yourself, beating yourself up. You just drown in those emotions rather than looking at where you need to be and where you need to go, or taking this to say, how do I embrace this? What can I take that can still make me to be part of who I am, and use this also in where I'm going? But again, I said, the process of job search, we sometimes don't realize how emotional it can be and how human it is, to the extent that when we don't attend to those aspects of our lives and in our career, that impact of on our humanness and our emotions, we remain very stuck. And that becomes like a snowball effect.
Thank you. Komotso is asking, thank you for this. I think I understand some things better about what I can control. One thing I'm not sure about is how to talk to others who I feel are putting too much pressure on me.
Yeah, it's very difficult. But the first thing I would even want you to start, or where we need to start. I had a conversation with somebody this morning, and I said to this person, sure, I'm very grateful. I didn't even have to say a lot of things to this person, but she, at the end, I asked her the question, how do you feel by this session? She says, I was feeling very anxious because I thought, sure, another person who is going to judge me while I'm being judged. And in this conversation, I didn't judge her. I even asked her, I want you to take a helicopter view of your life, observe yourself and the rest of the people you are talking about, and look at the role you are playing. What am I talking about? Humuto, I want to first want you to reflect on the pressure you put for yourself, to yourself, how much you feel pressurized by yourself, and how do people trigger that? Because sometimes, because we are already feeling under pressure, even when people make other comments, then they trigger that. Because once you have done that and you have sort of liberated yourself from the pressure you put yourself through, it becomes easier to talk to other people. It even becomes easier not to always take it when people say, but Khumutsa, when will you start working? That they are actually pressurizing you to start working. Maybe they are concerned, maybe they are curious, but you can start having conversation to say, sure, I really want to start working, but this is what I'm struggling with. It's a huge issue for me as well, but this is where I'm struggling, and people can even understand you better. And for you to be able to say, sure, you know, when you ask me that questions, you don't realize how my heart wants to seek, because that's the question I'm asking myself. And that's something I'm struggling with as well. But for now, it's something I can't control. This is what I'm doing. I'm not sure if there is something else you think I can also do differently. So you can be able to move from that space of hearing people judging you, or even to use those opportunities as saying, here I am, I'm stuck in the mud, please hold my hand.
Thank you. Those are the only questions we've got for now. So again, while I'm doing the ending of announcements, please take time to post any further questions you might have. Thank you to Dr. Kodisang for also attending those questions. I am going to share our contact details with you. So if any of you have a need to have further conversations about the topics that we talk about today, you are more than welcome to contact us. Okay, so with that, I'm just apologizing. I just need to get back to the presentation. So we would just want to share with you some information about some events and resources that you can use. So we have a career events calendar. There will be one more session on Thursday in August. And you can find information about all of these career events on the My Unisa events calendar. So on Thursday, we will be having a colleague from PNet or Career Junction rather, who will be sharing with us about how you can optimize your profile as you are doing your job search. And then there will also be a further couple of sessions in September. So please check for updated information about these events on the My Unisa events calendar. Then for those of you who have not found this Grad Next book yet, we would really encourage you to go and take a look at the contents of the book. You can download it free of charge from the link that I've shared with you on the screen. And it has really got a lot of information about looking for a job, starting your own business, writing CVs and cover letters, preparing for interviews, networking, personal branding, as well as some personal financial management tools that you can use. So please also take time to go and take a look at this book and also pass it along to those who you know are also preparing for their next steps in terms of their career. Then we would really love to hear from you. So if you have any questions, feedback or suggestions, you're welcome to send those to Mrs. Mandu Makanya, and her email address is also on the screen there. And if you would want to contact us for conversations about your career, but also about your academic skills and development, as well as your personal development, you are welcome to send us an email to counselling@unisa.ac.za. We also offer online appointments on Microsoft Teams, and you can book an appointment using that link that I've also shared with you. You can also contact a counsellor at a Unisa regional office if you want to make an appointment for counselling in person. Then on our website at www.unisa.ac.za/counselling, there's a lot of resources related to what we spoke about today, but also further resources to again help you with your career, your academic and your personal development. Then on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Unisa Careers, we also publish recordings of all the workshops or the online sessions that we've conducted. So a recording of this session, for example, should be available within the next day or two. So that brings me back to, I'm just going to check if we have any further more comments or questions. Yes, there is one. So thank you, Dr. Kodisang, for the words of hope. I relate with a lot of what you discussed. I'm hitting on 2 years of unemployment, and it is easy to give up hope. I've always been socially awkward, and being unemployed has increased this drastically since my unemployment. I don't leave home unless I really need to. Dr. Kodisang?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I would really want to invite you to contact us so that we can just create some holding space and also create a space where we can also hold certain spaces, because I can understand, I can imagine how this unemployment has also exacerbated some of your challenges. So with that, I would really want to invite you to contact us.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that with us. Our contact details are still on the screen, so please feel free to let us know how we can support you. And then we also have Kingsley, who's saying that in terms of self-confidence and applying the tips of boosting your self-confidence, is there a limit whereby you may seem to be overconfident and also overdoing things?
Not really, especially if you are basing your self-confidence on real thing that you have achieved, because the self-confidence is like, as I said, I always use that building a house, any house. If you said, sure, I'm grateful I have the window, you have that window, you know where you even got this window. Remember when we are talking about the self-confident, we are saying there are aspects of your life and certain things that you have done, you look at them and you really feel good about, and you can even share to other people to say, sure, I'm very good at presenting. Then a person will say, why do you say that? Then I can say, no, I presented on the topic on self-confidence and dealing with frustration, and people then gave me feedback that I was clear, they could relate to me. So it's based on something I have done, something I have achieved. When you overcompensate, it's when you just even say things, but there is no substance. That's where we will talk about superiority complex, but that is just shielding the struggle with self-confidence.
Thank you, Dr. Kodisang. So this brings us to the end of the questions or the comments. Thank you to all of those of you who've posted those. The topic, I always feel that it's quite personal. And even if you did not feel comfortable to send any questions in the Q&A, I hope that you have been reflecting on how you could use this resource and also contacting us for further conversations. So from my side, I just want to invite my colleague, Mrs. Makanya, if you could just end off the session for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Directorate for Counselling and Career Development at Unisa to thank our colleague, Dr. Tshifhiwa Kodisang, for such a profound presentation that touches the emotions of our struggles in our journeys of life. Dr. Kodisang, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time again. You never disappoint. And I hope that our students are encouraged and given hope today to say that it will be okay, it will be fine in the struggles that they are going through with job searching. So we thank you so much for such a profound presentation. And I would like to thank my colleague Lisa for putting everything today to make sure that the presentation goes well. And I would like to also thank the students for participating and also those who found courage to ask questions. Not to say that those who did not ask questions are not courageous, because we are in different spaces. So thank you so much for all of you. And we wish you all the best in your studies and in your job search journeys. And we hope that at the time that is perfect, you'll find something that is suitable for you, and it will bring rewards in your life. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Mrs. Makanya, and again, thank you very much to Dr. Kodisang. And we really hope that we see you at some future events. So please go and check out my Unisa, the events calendar, for a link to join us on Thursday again. And all the best with your job searching. And again, the invitation to please contact us if you need further support. We hope you have a very good day further, and hope to see you at the next session.